have any problems with this stuff.
Yeah.
First,
I want to know what the story is with the silver mermaid statue in the background there, Anthony.
Yeah. Oh, you can see this is. I'm on a lake house here on the U.S. Canadian border on Lake Erie. I don't know if you can see out the window over here, but it's Canada up there. So that the lake house kind of has a nautical theme. So that's there's a mermaid.
Nice.
There's a mermaid behind me.
All right. Well, have a good time with her.
But be careful, the water's cold.
Say that again.
The water is cold.
Yeah, the lake is pretty freezing. Although I've been swimming out there in the mornings. It's kind of why there's something that it does to you when you kind of wade out into an ice cold lake first thing in the morning. It really. I don't drink coffee, so I've got to find ways to keep myself energized.
Well, it's good that you're energized. Maybe we should have your internet connection go out into the middle of the lake in the morning too. It can get real energized.
Is my internet is it doing okay right now, or are we still having some difficulty?
Yeah. You're not too bad. So I just want to introduce Anthony to Warren, who's the old guy, and Ed, who's the young guy.
Yeah.
Anthony is Mr. Credit Cover. He figured out that there is a way to spread messages on people who use plastic and not dollar bills. So I just ordered up a bunch of his credit covers, but in talking with Anthony, it became clear that he's really a simpatico activist and is really interested in getting money out of politics and other progressive causes, and he had some really good ideas and offered to talk with us for a while and see if we could develop or brainstorm some new and improved ways to get more stampers and to keep our stampers motivated. And the one thing that he kind of mentioned off the top of his head was that, boy, wouldn't it be cool if when somebody went to order a stamp that their Facebook friends popped up and they would have the option of kind of buying a stamp for them in kind of a paying it forward kind of way. And Anthony, I'm probably not explaining what you were talking about that well, so I give the floor to you.
I think you did a fine job. Fine job, Ben. Real quick, could you just give me like 2 sentences on the other guys that are here on the call? I know that you and I have spent a lot of time talking together. Just to kind of tuned into what these other gentlemen are in regards to your organization and how you all know each other. That'd be awesome.
Well, maybe you guys could self-introduce. I mean, it's the crowdsourced era. Warren, you want to blather on about who you are?
Well, I'm basically a friend of Ben's that I committed some time and effort to the Stamp Stampede, and I try to be the guy who tries out first everything and tries things out on Facebook and tries things out, from the older generation, but I still do all those things and try to give them feedback on my experiences, what I see, what happens, what works, what doesn't work, and then ideas that I might have from my experimentation on what might spread the word faster or further. So that's kind of what I see my role to be.
Yeah, and in Warren's previous life, he was the president of the Pacific Stock Exchange, and also, kind of the iconic businessman in the suit that was out there protesting in San Francisco with the anti-war protesters in terms of going to war in Iraq.
Amazing.
A little bit with the San Francisco Occupy guys too.
And are you in San Francisco right now?
I'm actually in London right now. I kind of have a nomad life. I spend time in San Francisco, Seattle, and London.
And then Ed.
I've been working with Ben since pretty much the beginning, helping to run the Stampede campaign. I've got a small strategic communications firm that we run out of Washington, D.C., and we've been really plugging away with Ben from the beginning on the Stampede.
Gorgeous. Thanks, man.
So Ed pretty much runs the day-to-day operations of the Stampede. He's the campaign director, or, you know, we fool around with different titles for him, but he's really the guy who runs the show.
Totally. Well, I just feel really honored to be able to work with you guys on this, and Ben, you and I just really hit it off when you just initially contacted me, and after that first hour or so that we were talking, I just wanted to see how else I could contribute value to what you guys are up to, because it obviously is deeply aligned. And for the other guys, I've had a background where I've done consulting work for the UN. I've worked on a variety of different political campaigns and causes, helped build movements. Currently advise a number of folks that are doing some pretty radical stuff in the world that I'm just really deeply passionate about. So the process that I wanted to kind of I had a framework that seemed to be useful. I mentioned that I would share with you kind of that movement architecture that we've used in the past really successfully. And I think kind of stepping through that with you guys would give us a nice framework to be able to kind of just, drill down each of these areas and see where there's some high leverage opportunity to kind of, really make this thing work. Before we dive in too deep, maybe you could just get me up to speed. And I've also, we've got a couple other people that might be listening in here to kind of just contribute or whatever. So if there's an opportunity to kind of just go over kind of where you guys are at right now with the organization, kind of with the movement, just a couple sentences on what that is to kind of recalibrate what we're actually talking about, like what this movement means and what it means to you.
Well, the Stampede is one small part of this much larger movement involving many different national, state level, and local organizations that all want to get money out of politics and are pursuing that through either a constitutional amendment or state and national level legislation. And so there's other elements of the movement that are focused more on lobbying, that are focused more on passing resolutions at various legislatures. And we are focused just on this one tactic. We are a very, very, very focused organization. We only have two objectives: selling more stamps and getting people who have bought stamps to keep on stamping. Takitkos is the watchwords of our faith, and it is the key is to keep on stamping.
Keep on stamping.
Awesome.
So yeah.
So I think it was kind of slow going at the very beginning. We're about 2 years old, and but this year we've grown at 250% over last year. We now have about over 25,000 stampers across the country. We are projecting adding another 40,000 this coming year, in large part because we're going to be very active starting in a month in New Hampshire in the presidential primaries. So we see that as an opportunity to get national PR for the Stampede and to help to force the presidential candidates to take a stand on the issue. And part of it is that we're going to be flooding New Hampshire with stamped money.
Yeah, Ben, real quick. I mean, you've obviously done a lot in your life, and so why this for you? I mean, why did you triangulate in on this particular opportunity to kind of make a difference in the world and kind of just that you've just spending a significant chunk of your time and resources to make happen? Like, why is this resonant with you? Like, what's beneath the surface on this for you personally?
Well, for me, I used to be very involved, along with Warren, in this in a campaign to shift national budget priorities from the Pentagon into social needs, and we didn't make much headway on that one. In large part, I think, because of all the money in politics from defense contractors, and I think that the issue of money in politics is a gateway issue. I mean, it is the thing that is the root cause of most of the problems that we face, from the environment to energy to education, poverty, you name it. The only laws that are getting passed or not passed in the country are the laws that the moneyed interest want passed or not passed. And I after that I got interested in Occupy Wall Street, and again there was many issues that Occupy Wall Street was working on, and I felt it was important to find a common denominator in order to refine the message, and I think money in politics was the root cause.
And what is a work? So I want to kind of tap into the bigger long-term vision here. What does a world look like with no money in politics, right? Or without corporate money in politics? So let's, this is successful. The movement's successful. What's the world that we're living in that these stampers and the stampede and the activists and the people that might become activists? What's the world that they're kind of raising their hand saying that's where we want to live? Because obviously the amendment and the law is like a stepping stone to a bigger future that obviously, it's clear that you see it. Give me some insight.
Yeah, I think it's a future in which the direction of the country is more aligned with the needs of the people. So I think there's better health care. There's we're a lot closer to national health care. We're a lot better in terms of our schools. We've got more public financing for higher education. We've got a lot less pollution. We've got an energy policy that's focused more on renewables.
Then I think one of the big things is that we return to a meritocracy rather than a aristocracy, so that wealth accumulation isn't built into our systems.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of financial industry, we no longer have the usurious interest rates that we have today. But yeah, it's exactly what Warren said.
Okay. So it sounds like this idea of empowerment, that really it's about it's removing this barrier that's going to empower a lot of kind of individual citizens to have their voices heard in a way that hasn't really been possible before with this cash that's in kind of the way that the system is set up. Corporate cash is kind of preventing them from being empowered to actualize policies that are really beneficial. So that's kind of the underlying values, and you've shared some of the overall vision for it. So the vector for this, and that's what you hinted at here, was, really there's two goals for your organization, which is to get more people stamping, and to sell more stamps, and then to get those folks stamping once they've got the stamps in their hand. You mentioned you got 25,000 people in the stampede. That's projected to increase to 40,000 a year. If we
40,000, but go on.
I'm sorry. You said increase by 40.
Going up to 65,000. We're going to add 40.
Adding 40,000 to, so it'd be a total of 65,000 stampeders. Stampeders? Is that what we call them?
Well, we're calling them stampers, but they might be stampeders.
Stampers. Okay, stampers. So there's a stampede and there's a stamper. All right. I want to make sure that I've got the language correct here. Okay, and so if in a year, if we're checking back in a year from now with your team, it sounds like the numbers that we know. for this particular piece of the puzzle to be successful for you guys, I mean, obviously the bigger goal is, as you said, it's passing a constitutional amendment that places limitations, just eliminates corporate spending in elections. That's kind of the final goal for all this, and so that's the measurable thing in, you know, the big win for the next 12 months for this group is getting an additional 40,000 stamps out there. I'm just, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that feels like that's kind of the number. And
Yep.
How do we measure the other piece? What's the metric for engagement on folks actually using the stamps? You know, how do I know that you're going to have a smile on your face if I look at a number and I say, hey, how's it going? You know, without just kind of guessing what that's going to be, without using the intuition. What's the metric on engagement that we can use to look at that?
Let's hear it, Ed, baby.
So we have a highly engaged stamper point system. So every time somebody interacts with us, either on social media, Facebook, Google+, Twitter, Pinterest, wherever, or if they're emailing with us, or if they call us, we call them. If they participate in a telephone town hall, they participate in different contests or different promotions that we have, we award points. So at every point of interaction, we register that, and then we monitor it, and we tailor communications to people depending on where they are on that ladder. And it goes everywhere from 0, which is a body of folks who interact with us but haven't bought stamps yet, to 1, where somebody who had just purchased a stamp, all the way up to 3, which is somebody who is really becoming an evangelist, somebody who's regularly recruiting their own friends, they're out organizing, they're working with other partner groups in the movement. So we track that pretty closely, and we take it really seriously.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's kind of the next thing I wanted.
One thing I would think, Ed, and you and Ben have a better view of this. I think also if you can get, you know, if you've got 8 candidates going to New Hampshire, if you can get 6 of them to commit themselves one way or the other on money and politics, I mean, that's really the ultimate measure, right?
Well, that's absolutely right, and that goes beyond stamper engagement, and that's more towards progress for the larger movement, right? Yeah,
and I mean, it's because they've got stampers in Vermont, so there are a bunch of people who suddenly believe that this is important, and those presidential campaigns feel that campaign in May in New Hampshire.
Great, Warren. So you said the goal then, kind of a secondary goal or maybe a higher level goal, you know, that hopefully that the stampers and folks that are part of this, that would be to get, you said, what, six candidates, that you had a specific number that you'd like to see happen?
I make up numbers all the time.
Okay.
But we want the people who are campaigning in New Hampshire to feel the pressure because all the stamping has been going on.
Great. And so you said, how many candidates in New Hampshire would you like to see, you know?
Well, we haven't
raising their hands saying, you know, we want to be.
You know, we haven't come up with any.
Okay.
Well, and I think it's important to mention that we're working alongside a number of partner organizations that are bird dogging and trying to get every candidate to go on record saying what their stance is to help solve the problem of political corruption, whether or not they support a constitutional amendment that says corporations are not people, money is not free speech, etc. And so we're working closely with them to define what those goals are going to be.
Great. Can you guys walk me through? You know, you guys, it sounds like you guys kind of have an internal. Ed, you mentioned you guys have your points in your ladder system. You know, we often call it the activist pipeline. That idea of, you know, kind of taking somebody from that initial space of, you know, kind of just being completely naive to the issue, where it's not even something that's on their radar, to, you know, probably having a little bit of resistance about, hey, what is this? But at least it's kind of, you know, entering into their brain, into their life a bit. And that next basically kind of being open to the idea. Okay, well, there's some resistance, and now I'm a bit more open to it. What's kind of happening? And then getting them to take some small action, and then typically it's we track it as they've taken some action and they've seen a benefit. They enjoy it in some capacity, where it's been a positive experience for them, and then they continue doing that. And further from there, they then will tell other people about it. Whether that's buying somebody a stamp, tweeting about it, posting on Facebook, and then that process will kind of repeat. They'll be willing to take a slightly larger action, and then that cycle kind of just continues. I'm curious for this. Kind of each of those has specific challenges, right? So for you guys, maybe looking at where's the biggest. Ed, you might be more kind of on the ground with this stuff. Where's the biggest challenge right now that you're experiencing in that overall kind of movement or activist pipeline, or as you call it in your ladder, kind of getting someone from never hearing it into the funnel? Is there some specific steps in there? We can look at all those and look at some ways that we might be able to kind of tweak and polish those things up for you.
Yeah, we have a unique benefit and a unique challenge, and it's that the bar of entry is very high. We want people purchasing stamps, and so we bring a lot of people into the website. We're probably going to see somewhere around 500,000 unique web views this year, and anticipating that to increase at least double for next year. And the bar of entry in terms of purchasing a stamp is very high compared to many websites which are asking to sign a petition or do something very simple. And that's something we've talked about a lot internally, and have our reasons for not having a petition, and in part because so many other of our partner organizations that we work with do the petitioning. So that's the big challenge, is a very high bar to become a stamper.
I think that's, from everything I've learned from you, Ed, and Ben, is that's where we're trying to create things that really do challenge people, whether it be make it a game, make it a leaderboard. I mean, it's trying to find ways where people feel more involved and therefore will take that step.
Well, feel more involved once they have a stamp or before they have a stamp?
Well, feel more excited about moving to the next level, buying the stamp, looking at it and saying, hey, these guys, I want to get in that game.
Yeah, is there a community aspect, of I'm trying to kind of walk through the process, and I've been to the website a few times, to kind of walk through that. But so the process is, if Ben hadn't bought a bunch of credit covers and been a customer of mine, we got on a FaceTime together, and assuming I hadn't heard about this organization, where's the integration point between someone who is kind of in that kind of naive bucket, right? They're the uninformed bucket. They don't really even know what's going on. They don't even exist. How are they coming to you guys? Are you guys running pay-per-click ads? Is it in-person flyer?
We don't do any advertising. So there's 3 main tactics that we have to drive traffic to the website. The number one is press. Last quarter, we had articles in U.S. News World Report. We had a premiere article in Time Magazine. We had a feature of Ben on the Ed Show. We were in Truth Out, a number of HuffPost pieces, in addition to more than a handful of local, statewide media around the country. The same's been going on this quarter. In addition to that, we have upwards of 24 national partners with various lists that range from 20,000 to 500,000 who have committed to send out emails for us periodically to their members. And so that's another way that a lot of people get involved. And the third is Ben is really active around the country doing speaking events and promoting the Stampede and being out there talking about it. So that's another. Those are the 3 big channels that people hear about us. And then in addition to that, we have millions of stamped dollars circulating around the country, and we find just on social media about 25 a week new bills that people found, they Instagram, they tweet, etc., and bring in. And so there is just a number of micro ways that people hear about and find out about the campaign that's driving a pretty phenomenal level of traffic into the website.
I'd just like to point out one more possible way that people are being driven to the website, and that may be running into stamped bills. That it's not online, it's not somebody taking a photo and putting it online, but it's that you actually come across a stamped bill in your day-to-day activities, and perhaps some percentage of people that are seeing these stamped bills then go to the site and then they get a bill. But we don't have any good data with regard to that.
Okay.
I mean, every bill has the website on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, hopefully when you guys get these credit covers and get those deployed, we found that for the other campaigns and causes that we've worked on, that they is a vehicle to start a conversation between people. That when you have a face-to-face conversation with someone, that's a potential member of a movement, that seems to trump everything else that we've ever looked at in terms of any kind of marketing or PR. That when you can have a face-to-face conversation with someone about why you're passionate about a cause, that's going to be the biggest activation point to get inside that person's heart and come on board. And I imagine that if someone sees $1, that can spark that conversation. If they see one of the credit covers that you guys are going to be deploying, that can be useful. Certainly, any ways to increase conversations with the people that are already those active members, and some of those conversations can happen online. But what we found is that really only accounts for about 10% of kind of changing people's behavior. It's really those kind of, when you're going to a rally and you're talking to somebody about, hey, this is what's going on, here's my stamp, let me stamp your dollar bills. Anything that can be done to just increase the one-to-one conversations with people is going to be huge for you guys.
Well, it's funny. We left out another really big one, which is we have the Amend-O-Matic Stamp Mobile. So we have a one-of-a-kind Rube Goldberg machine that travels around the country to festivals and interacts with tens of thousands of people every weekend.
I love that. Well, I'll have to keep my eye out for the schedule of where that's going to be at.
Anthony, could you?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to me if you could take some campaign you've seen who used the credit card skins, and how does that engagement go? I know how a stamp bill engagement goes because I do a lot of those. But how does now I've got a credit card, so I don't have a stamp bill. I'm going to use a credit card. What happens?
Yeah. So there's the most common experience that we've gotten with the credit covers, and I can send you a picture that Damian Winters took of President Obama with one that was in the New York Times. I mean, Obama was out campaigning with the mayor of Milwaukee in Wisconsin. They went in to buy a brat, and the mayor pulled out his credit card to pay for Obama's lunch, and Obama saw the credit cover. It was just this crazy coincidence. He saw it, starts cracking up, and like, what is that? And Damon happened to be there and took a picture of it and ended up running in the New York Times. So that was a really cool example of that. When people use it, it's going to be other people that are in line. It's going to be people that are the small business owner that's behind the counter at the local restaurant or coffee shop or bakery or deli. It's going to be the barista at the Starbucks. It's just like real people. And what we found is that people just consistently ask questions. It's such a pattern interrupt to the monotony of seeing a credit card. When they see something that's kind of got this evocative message on it, people just say, hey, what is that? And if you've got a person who is passionate, and to a certain degree they are if they're putting one of these on their card, you're just giving them an opportunity. Like it literally creates that little on-ramp to give that person an opportunity to talk about the cause and to talk about being a stamper and why it's important. And what I've noticed is that you can go out and you can go talk to people. When I ran a 120,000 member lobby organization, and I would on the street with a board registering kids, students to vote, etc. And you can totally approach people and have those conversations, but there's a whole shift that happens when someone approaches you and asks you a question, because now you're not selling anything, you're literally just answering the question. So one example I would say is we had a few years ago, we actually moved our factory. Well, this is after the fact. I moved to New York City after we got defeated in Wisconsin trying to prevent a gay marriage amendment ban from passing, and I just got really disappointed with the state, and I kind of retreated to New York City. And we had made a bunch of credit covers that said, if you don't like gay marriage, don't get gay married. And I was using one just an example was I went to I won't name the airline, but I was flying on an airline, and when I went to check into the airline, the woman behind the counter saw it, and she made this kind of response, like, what's wrong? These people just seem to be re-educated. Like, she was making this blatantly homophobic kind of aggressive statement as an airline attendee. And I thought, this will be interesting. So I had a conversation with her, and I really just tried to understand her. And I've been an organizer for a while, so I know how to kind of have a heart open conversation with somebody. But what was beautiful is that after the space, within 15 minutes of me talking to this woman, kind of turned out that her daughter was sort of in the closet, and she had been reading all these books about going to getting reprogrammed from being gay and this whole thing. At the end of the 15 minutes, Warren, she says to me, she goes, "Hey, do you mind? Can I have one of those credit covers? I want to put one of those in my car." And she had this beautiful moment of kind of conversion just at the counter of an airline, which those kind of conversations, I think that they're just the most powerful aspect of it. And we've also worked with other brands and other causes, and we just every day we get people are emailing us every single day saying, "Man, every time I use my card, somebody asks me about it." And so as long as and this is something that these people are passionate about. I mean, there's risky element of stamping a dollar bill. I mean, even though it's legal, there is still sort of this subversive element of that. You better believe these people are passionate.
We're glad to get subversive. We want subversives.
Well, I mean, it's so interesting. I mean, we were kind of in that same boat. I mean, we just wanted to cover up the corporate branding on credit cards. I mean, that was kind of
important. It seems like it would be really important that the cover be visually attractive. That somebody has to grab people. Is that part of it?
I've found that the most effective credit cover designs are ones that are evocative questions, or they have a compelling design. I mean, yours looks like a piece of currency with a big red stamp on there. It's a statement, "Get me in politics." That feels engaging to me. You'll obviously, you'll see how those work for folks. You can always split test things, but for me, it's compelling facts. It's something that somebody's going to read, and it leaves a bit of curiosity, because you're not gonna sell somebody on the movement with a credit cover by itself, or anything for that matter. The purpose of the credit cover is to reinforce the identity of the person carrying it every day. So they see that every time they use it, they're seeing this thing, and they're reminded of themselves, "Hey, maybe I should go home and stamp my dollars tonight." That's just going to be one thing they're reminded of. They're also going to be evangelical. You're going to activate an evangelical aspect of that person. People are going to be asking them about that card several times, a week, potentially a day, and they're going to get a chance to have an authentic, organic conversation. Which, when we metric this stuff out, it comes down to 1 or 2 cents to get an organic conversation about your cause versus, we were in New York.
Do you think there's any risk in that if I make it part of the game for me to use my credit card, that I quit stamping?
I don't know. I mean, it's a fair question. are you going to change consumer behavior to stop spending dollars like with the like me personally? I mean, if I open up my wallet right now, I've got a few million colones from the last time I was in like the Dominican Republic or in Costa Rica, and I've got like some South Korean won. I don't think I have a bill in there. I mean, I use my card for everything. So I think that you're not going to change someone's consumptive behavior necessarily. But
yeah, I mean, ideally we do.
So,
that there is, a possibility of us doing something with these credit covers that's, different than what we're currently doing. I mean, we currently send out a sticker postcard to everybody who purchases a stamp, and they get it, about 2 weeks after they purchase. And, the purpose of that sticker is to put the sticker in different places, on their refrigerator, on their wallet, on their water bottle, or whatever, to remind themselves to keep on stamping. But it's possible that instead of sending out the sticker postcard, that we send out these credit covers, and that might work better, in terms of it helping to proselytize the movement and to help remind the person to keep on stamping. But
well, certainly, if they're reaching for their debit card in their wallet, I'm just thinking about that. Maybe they're out of cash. It's like, hey, it's time to refill the wallet with stamped money or something. It's kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah, I also think the idea of trying different creative and asking a question, but I mean that's I think for us to think about for later on. We're kind of testing out credit cards, and
totally.
I think that one of the other things that we should understand, I think, about credit cards is that I think that they're a lot more durable than the stickers that we're currently putting out. I mean, I think that if we changed our stickers to the same material that that's being used for credit covers, then our stuff, the current stuff we're putting out would be as durable. But currently, it's not. And so just wanted to put that forward as a piece of information for us all.
I mean, I think that certainly getting people to have more conversations is a big deal. I also think that when people ask us, should I buy credit covers, should I invest in credit covers and give them out to all my constituents, or should I attempt to sell the credit cover to them to recapture some money, to generate funds? Our experience as a company is that we can't spend money in a more effective way than just to give away credit covers, right? The most effective way for us to spread the message is to give out credit covers to people. And so, if we kind of view it in that frame,
why don't you give them out to us?
Well, we are trying to give you guys a really good deal as best as we can. Trying to support.
I appreciate that.
We definitely could do more.
I'm just concerned that we might be, I think we're scheduled till 3 o'clock, and I want to try to make the best use of our time. And I think when you and I were on the phone, we were starting to talk about a kind of a pay-it-forward model, and this idea of buying stamps for your friends while you're online on the site checking out. And I was just wondering whether you have any further information or thoughts, or whether that's even possible. Kind of what we put out was the idea that, well, you're checking out and your friends pop up and it says, why don't you pay it forward with one of these guys or something like that? I mean, are you aware of that?
Yeah, I mean, I spent some time thinking about this, and we actually have our internal team is actually building a product that does this for our own kind of as a platform. So that's kind of where where that conversation stemmed from. Was I just thought, man, this would just be such a perfect way to kind of brand it. We've seen this done with some other organizations, and so we're developing technology in-house to let any organization develop a kind of gift-forward kind of platform for their products. But the general frame for it, and there's a lot of layers of psychology that we don't need to get into why this kind of works, but the vision that I had that we talked about, Ben, and it's kind of gotten refined, is if my user experience was I get a notification in my inbox, that says, hey, Anthony, your friend Ed just sent you just bought you a stamp. We click here to verify your address. So I'm actually getting a gift from my buddy. Shows up. I click through to that. My experience is, okay, great, I got to verify my address. I literally don't have to spend $1. There's no money coming out of my pocket to pay for shipping or any of this stuff. It's literally just a gift that I need to go verify where this thing's getting shipped to. Maybe there's a cool little video, from Ben, kind of just, talking about what's going on. Here's a picture of the, of $1. Just here's the movement that we're a part of. Here's why we think you would love this. And that's coming to somebody like myself that's interested in it. And then after I go through that process of just typing in my mailing address and saying confirm, here's where you can send my Stampede kit, which has by the way already been paid for by my buddy Ed, who bought me this gift. Now, once I go through that process, there's a pop-up that happens that basically says, okay, which of your, I would actually call it like the stamp it forward. I call this is like the stamp it forward kind of, movement of the stamp it forward project. And what we would ask for you is, if you'd like to support this in the same way that your friend Ed bought this stamp for you, is pulls up your Facebook friend list and it says, select the top 3 people from your network that you think would be most likely to be excited about getting money out of politics. And it could be 1, it could be 3, they could select 10, but it's kind of suggesting that they pick 3 people to do that with. And there's a little algorithm you can run so that you're not inviting someone who's already been invited. We can actually figure out who's got. Basically, we can look at your friend list and say, okay, who's most likely to be a yes to stamping it forward.
So this is all that person based on Facebook friends.
I think that's the easiest kind of mechanism to do it. You could also just ask them for 3 email addresses of people. It just has to be someone that they're personally connected to, right? So it's just, will you send this to your 3? Would you be interested in supporting this movement even further by stamping it forward the same way your friend Ed did and move it forward? Ed, I'm just using your name because you're sitting there.
So does the technology exist? I don't really understand how somebody who's on my website, who's now checking out, how we end up popping up their 3 friends that we think might be interested in this before they check out.
Yeah, Ben, can I go through, because I just bought 2 stamps for some friends in Chicago last week. So can I go through what I think might happen, what I would have liked to have happened? Because what happened for Anthony, okay. So I had these 2 friends, I had lunch with them, I paid with stamp bills. They said, what's those? And so we had the conversation. I said, I'll buy you stamps. So the way we did it now is I go in there, I fill out my address, my thing. I have 2 stamps shipped to them. They get the stamps. I get an email. I forward that email to them and tell them it's coming. If I understand you right, Anthony, what would happen is I go in, I order the stamp for these people, and I pay for it. So it heads off to them. But if an email goes to them and says, hey, Warren bought you 2 stamps, click on this just to verify that the stamps are coming. Look at this video from Ben, blah, 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 blah. And oh, by the way, can we look at your contact list because we can help you find people that you could buy stamps from? Or something like, once you get that email to them, you can engage them and either look at their contact list or look at their Facebook friends, if you've got the technology to do that. Is that right?
That's right. And the other thing that's happening there is you're triggering a couple things. You're kind of triggering this reciprocity mindset, right? It's like, hey, this person. It's like when someone buys you a coffee at Starbucks or at the local coffee shop, and then people just pass this thing forward. So you're triggering that reciprocity in them where they're in a good mindset. Well, I just got this cool gift from my friend. I literally don't have to put $1 in if I don't want to. It's kind of like, but then there's this feeling of like, man, this.
You're engaging them to say, hey, somebody did something good for you. You have a chance to do something good for them right now. So there's not disengagement.
And it's like you don't want to be the guy that breaks the chain, right? Like you don't want to be the guy that just stops. That's like, hey, there's been 1,000 people that have bought these stamps moving forward, and all of a sudden you're the guy. It's like you're not going to be the guy that wants to stop the momentum of that happening. And so
I wonder if there's a way to make this to actually actualize this by using Facebook kind of as a platform more for it, because I mean Facebook is built for this kind of thing. I mean my understanding is that there's a way to actually sell stuff on Facebook. Is that correct?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's the e-commerce. So all the e-commerce stuff exists. You could have the gift get posted directly to their Facebook wall from my Facebook account to yours, Ben. It just goes right on your Facebook wall, and then I can click there and I could buy directly through Facebook. I mean, that's just a Facebook e-commerce solution. There's some technical stuff there, but a competent web team could build that out.
And we have that set up, Ben. So people can. Yeah, we have that set up. You can currently purchase stamps on Facebook.
So all right. So, I mean, if somebody's already on Facebook and they're purchasing a stamp on Facebook, then it seems like it is possible to have their Facebook friends pop up right as they're making the purchase, and to say, "Hey, do you want to get one for Johnny too?"
Yeah, that would be the way you kind of get the thing going. Would just be an easy way to kind of get that going is to offer the Stamp It Forward to people that are already purchasing stamps. But and the idea being then that once it gets purchased for someone, I would never buy a stamp for myself if you bought me one. So now I'm in this position of I go to the site to verify my address, and then I get an opportunity to buy more. And so it's a tweak on that traditional e-commerce one where it flips it around, where it's now a gifting it forward. Where every person is now gifting these to the people in their network they would like to see doing it. It's building community.
It's the Burning Man concept, Ben. I gifted something to you, so you give something to somebody else.
Yeah, and
exactly.
The thing about it for you guys is that there's cool ways of displaying this, right? It's like you're part of a chain of people now that have all purchased, had been gifting these stamps forward, and so as opposed to one person coming to the website and that kind of being the end of it, it's an inherently viral, sustainable, movement piece, right? So that's the idea, is that it's gifting it forward, and it's an inherently viral piece, because if I'm given one stamp, and of course the goal for me would be, if we were working on this to build this, the goal is how do we get one person that receives a stamp to give away some number greater than 1 on average, right? So that way it's actually growing and spreading. So for every stamp that gets given as a gift, that next person then buys 2 and so on. That's an exponential expansion, and so then you start to get to play with fine-tuning that giving model to really leverage that thing out. And then you can tell, hey, for every person we bring into the funnel, and that's what Ben, you and I spoke about that a few weeks ago when we talked, is that there's a certain number of there's a certain dollar value, a certain expense to get somebody into your movement. Whether it's, even if you're not buying ads, there's still some expense that goes into the PR, that goes into the on-the-ground efforts, all these different things, and that averages out to an average cost to get one person in the activist pipeline. And so the beauty of this kind of innovation, with that e-commerce innovation, is that it really tries to get it so that it becomes, you close that loop and it becomes self-sustaining at that point, where the customers or the members are the ones who are actively recruiting. They're giving the cash. It becomes profitable. You can reinvest, and then the profits get reinvested back into scale it even more and bring more people into that funnel. So that's the vision. That, you really want to be able to create that sustainable movement where it just
the Tupperware model, right? Because basically you're saying you bought a piece of Tupperware, now you go out and sell it to others.
Yeah, but this is great because you don't have to go to parties and pitch people on quitting their job on Tupperware. You get to just gift it forward. It's like giving somebody something, and then you're never asking them again for it, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think
conceptually, I think it makes a tremendous amount of sense. I'm trying to figure out, how we actualize it and how we execute it.
Well, our team is working on some infrastructure to allow folks to be able to do just this kind of a thing. So depending on your schedule, we might be able to get you guys up and running using that platform, which would just integrate with what you've got. It becomes a standalone kind of gifted forward piece. Certainly, we could talk more about working with your team to work on that. If that's a piece we want to explore building, I'd be happy to talk more about how we might implement those things.
Well, so you're saying that you believe that what it requires is some proprietary software?
Oh, it certainly doesn't require it. I mean, you could certainly build it. I think what I'm saying is that we're working on something so that we can do this for all kinds of stuff. To help people with cause-related products start gifting things forward. So. And in that case, it's a very easy thing to set up. It doesn't take any technical expertise. It's software is anything's possible with software. You get somebody you could build your own in-house solution to it for sure.
It only takes time and money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that we might save you some headache, and if a system that's usable, that's the system that I've designed that was the inspiration for our conversation. That could be really useful as well. But certainly,
how does it integrate with a simple just selling model? I mean, if you've got your web store set up now, does it integrate with that easily?
We'd have to see what your web store is, but the idea is that it becomes a closed loop within your system. So we'd have to dig in a bit more into what your particular e-commerce solution is, but.
And Anthony, do you have an example of where this has worked in the past?
This kind of gifted forward type model with a charity or with a cause.
Yeah.
I think the best one that I saw done. Gosh, it must have been maybe just 3-4 years ago. A friend of mine, Scott Harrison, runs an organization called Charity Water. And I forget what the gift was or what the actual thing was, but it was very much the same principle where it would bring up all your Facebook friends. It would show you out of your Facebook friends who would maybe it was just it could have been just a straight up like donate in someone's name. I'd have to actually I'm fuzzy. So many years ago I'm fuzzy on the actual what they were buying, but it was a pay it forward kind of model where I'd go through my Facebook friends. It would show me who had already contributed. It would show me who hadn't contributed. I could select all the ones that I wanted to contribute.
I think it's in the general rubric of peer-to-peer fundraising, and I'm familiar with the Charity Water model, and it's essentially saying to a person, okay, you, Harry, you commit to raising so much money to buying a well for this community, and now go out to your friends and raise the money.
Yeah, and that's their general model. But specifically, Ben, and what Ed was asking is they did a specific kind of sub promotion where they actually used the model where it was I'm gonna get maybe it was just let's just call it giving $20. I'm gonna give $20 in your name. You're going to get notified, hey, Anthony just gave $20 in your name. Will you give $20 in someone else's name? Right? So it was that basic model. And maybe they were buying a T-shirt or a bracelet. I can email Scott and get some more details on that.
Yeah, that would be great if you could get us the details on how that worked.
Yeah, but the basic framework was that giving to a friend, and then after they've kind of confirmed, they get the opportunity to give to someone that's in their network, and it spread very, very fast.
I think that the added benefit here on the stamp is it means that there's an immediate engagement online between me getting a stamp bought by somebody else and Ben with a video and everything. So there's, instead of this time lag, it's like, oh, this is going to happen, and now I'm anticipating the gifts. So I think there's an added benefit because we want them not only to gift a stamp, we want them to use their stamp.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's there's a whole bunch of other stuff we can talk about too in terms of, how do you increase the engagement on the back end. But I think that there's a community aspect of it that I haven't seen so far, the online with you guys. Like, if I'm buying a stamp, that's kind of like, I go to the website, I buy the stamp, and that's kind of it. But if it's a thing where now I'm part of this network, now there's a tribe getting built that's a conscious tribe of, oh, my buddy Anthony brought me into this, and I've actually brought some other people into it, my identity starts to shift in a way where it just, that's a big piece of we talk about the 4 quadrants of the activist, that internal identity shift that needs to happen at some point where, this becomes your thing. You've been recruited, you've recruited somebody all in the span of 5 minutes, and you've contributed some cash, you've got a gift coming in, and so it's hitting a lot of the key triggers inside someone to really start to get that identity shift, and I think it's going to make them. My hunch is that they'll be much more committed to the follow-on. If I just click buy something, it might show up in a box, but all of a sudden, it's a gift from someone.
The Facebook, not the Facebook page, but the Facebook group that we have.
I haven't been inside the Facebook group. I'd love to get invited to the Facebook group, or I'd love to get a link to it.
What's your Facebook name?
Yeah.
How do I get you on Facebook?
It's Facebook. Well, Facebook.com/Anthony David Adams.
Anthony David Adams.
Yeah.
And do you have a stamp?
I don't have a stamp. I need to get a.
Send me? I'll send you a note on Facebook. I will buy you a stamp. I will invite you to the Facebook group, and then you have to start stamping.
And I'll have to buy some stamps for my 3 closest friends as well.
That's what I'll tell you in the email I send you.
Yeah, that's great. So there's definitely
Because I think it's created a pretty good community feeling within that Facebook group.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost to 900 people, aren't we, Ed?
Warren, how do people get access to that group, right? So when I'm
the expert on that, Ed, why don't you tell him?
So there's a number of communities that people are engaged in. The Facebook group is definitely one premier community. We send out emails to people. We have a highly segmented list, and we'll send out various different invitations to people based on where they are in terms of stamper engagement and communication. But that's the primary way people are getting involved, is from an invitation in an email. We announce it in one of the first emails that people get when they first purchase a stamp. There's a pretty closely interconnected community of stampers all across the country. And again, it's one of the advantages of the stampers opposed to petition signers, is that we find when our partners are out doing events, there's a documentary that came out earlier this year, Pay to Play. They bring stamping stations around the country everywhere they go, and we'll have stampers show up to different movie premieres around the country. There was a fellow, Jeff Clements, who wrote a book that interviews Ben, mentions the Stampede. In the end, he's been touring around the country. We'll send out little emails when he's in town doing a book talk. Stampers show up. It's really quite a connected group, both in local spots and also nationally.
Mm-hmm. There is a new program, and an element of that does have more of a social aspect of it, in which people will put up profiles of themselves, and that is the soon-to-be launched Society of Maniacal Stampers, who get involved at a higher level, and they're stamping bills that have their own unique identifier on it, so they get to find out when someone has spotted one of their bills. But as part of that, we're using a system kind of like happens on Facebook, and I guess maybe there's some question. Maybe we should make the profile thing available to the whole membership.
I don't know all the details of that of the profile program. One thing that jumped to mind was can we get like small business owners or venues or people to just have a stock of stamped money that they're kind of maybe people are doing this when you go to a music festival. Well,
so we also have point of purchase stamping stations.
What's that?
We have point of purchase stamping stations, and so we have almost 100 small businesses around the country with an area where people can come in and stamp their bills right there before they buy something.
Oh, I love that.
A number of those businesses are also stamping all of their money in the till. A big part of the New Hampshire program is going to be saturating New Hampshire businesses, particularly places where presidential candidates will be making their stops with those stamping stations.
That's awesome. I love that. I think that's a great initiative. Okay, I know that we're bumped up against the. Did we bump up against the time here, gentlemen, or how's that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to chat a little more if you want. If there's any kind of closing questions or thoughts or like kind of points that you guys want to wrap about, we can totally do that. Okay.
I'm gonna eat dinner now.
Yeah, you go for it. A little bang and mash, a little bubble and squeak. Bangers
and mash. Bubbles and squeak. Actually, we're having spaghetti bolognese with a good red wine.
Nice. Give my best to the cook.
I will do that, Ben.
Warren, it was really good.
Nice to meet you, Anthony. Nice to see you, Ed. And now.
Yeah, great to meet all of you guys, and we'll send people. Tell me the website again, Ben, that you want people to go to. It's the
Stampede. That
one. Yeah, the main website URL. I just want to get you to say it in the video if there's a replay of this that somebody wants to watch.
Stampede.org.
Great.
Stampede.org.
Great, man.
Stampede.org. Don't forget, that was stampede.org.
All right, beautiful. Well, we'll follow up with some email, and we can obviously chat more about this. But
all right. Well, good yakking with you all. Have a delightful afternoon. Say hi to the mermaid for me.
I will do, Ben. All right, take it easy. Nice meeting you, Ed. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.